My name is Erin Walsh, 25, and I thought Christmas dinner would be a rare moment of warmth in our Tucson home. I'd spent hours roasting turkey, mashing potatoes, and perfecting pecan pie. My hands still dusted with flour from the morning's work. The table was set, candles flickering, my promotion news from my social media job ready to share. Then my mother's voice cut through the chatter like a knife. "You're a pig, Erin. You can't stay here anymore." The words landed heavier than the plate of stuffing in front of me. My father stayed silent, his fork scraping the plate, while my younger sister's eyes widened, her hands frozen mid-bite. I'd paid the electric bill that kept those candles lit, the rent that secured this house, the groceries for every dish on this table. Yet, I was the one branded a burden. The sting wasn't just the insult, it was the ambush. Perfectly timed after I'd poured everything into this family. A text from my aunt earlier that day, praising my mother's pride in me. Flashed in my mind. Pride, more like a setup. My stomach twisted, but I forced a smile, calm and deliberate. "Okay," I said, voice steady, pulling out my phone. One call later, I spoke, clearly, electricity, rent, water, cancel everything under my name. My mother's smirk faltered as I stood, plate in hand, and walked to the kitchen. By 11 that night, the house went dark, their panic echoing through voicemails I didn't answer. A single call came, her voice. "Too late to matter. Been blindsided by family," hit like, subscribe, and stick around to see how I turned their betrayal into my freedom. That night, I couldn't sleep. My mother's words. "You're a pig," burning in my ears like a brand. I sat at the kitchen table in our Tucson home, the glow of my laptop the only light. 6 months ago, when Mom lost her retail job, I stepped in without a second thought. My social media gig wasn't glamorous, but it paid enough to cover the electricity that kept this house running, the rent that stopped eviction notices, the water for every shower. I'd even taken on their car insurance, draining my savings while Mom's excuses piled higher than the bills. My name was on every account now, my signature the only thing keeping us afloat. Yet, somehow, I was the burden. I opened my email to check the utility accounts, making sure my cancellations from earlier went through. That's when I saw an unread message in my spam folder, forwarded from Mom's account by mistake. It was a confirmation from a car dealership, thanking Deborah Walsh for her down payment on a new SUV, $5,000, dated last month, with a delivery scheduled for January. My hands froze on the keyboard. I'd been eating instant noodles to stretch my budget while she was buying a car. I dug deeper, finding a digital notepad app synced to her phone, left open on my shared cloud. "Wait until Erin pays January bills," it read, her handwriting unmistakable. "Then tell her to leave." A plan, cold and calculated, to squeeze me dry before kicking me out. My chest tightened, not with sadness but with a fury I hadn't known I could feel. I scrolled through bank records, my account dwindling to $700 while hers grew. Every utility payment, every grocery run I'd covered, she'd been siphoning money for herself. The betrayal wasn't just personal, it was financial, deliberate, a theft disguised as family. I opened my desk drawer, pulling out a folder of receipts, electricity, rent, insurance, all in my name, proof of what I'd carried. My fingers shook as I sorted them. Not from fear but from clarity. They thought I was a pig, a resource to drain. I wasn't. I was done being their lifeline. I leaned back, staring at the laptop screen. The dealership email still open. My savings, once $9,000, were nearly gone because I trusted them. My mother's voice echoed again, not from tonight but from weeks ago. Overheard through the living room window, "Erin acts like she runs this house now." Dad's grunt of agreement had stung then, but now it made sense. They resented my help because it exposed their failure. I clicked through more emails, finding confirmations for spa treatments, hundreds of dollars charged to my insurance as medical necessities. My jaw clenched. I'd cut corners on my own life to keep theirs comfortable, and they'd spent my money on luxury. The laptop hummed softly, a reminder of the world outside their manipulation. I started drafting a plan, not emotional, not rash, but methodical. First, secure my accounts. Second, protect what little I had left. Third, walk away for good. My mother's notepad had shown me their game, but I wasn't playing anymore. I saved screenshots of the email and notepad, my evidence building. The house was quiet now, the darkness from the cancelled electricity a fitting metaphor for what they'd done to me. I wasn't just leaving, I was taking back control. The next morning, I slipped out to a Tucson coffee shop. My laptop still open to the damning email from the car dealership. My sister's name, Delaney Walsh, flashed on my phone screen. She'd texted, asking to meet. I hesitated, the sting of my mother's words still fresh, but agreed to see her at a park nearby. Delaney, 17 and lanky, sat on a bench, her eyes darting like she expected someone to jump out. "Aaron, I need to tell you something," she whispered, her voice barely above the rustle of palm trees. She glanced over her shoulder, then leaned in. "Mom's been lying. She used your insurance money for spa treatments, not doctor visits. I saw the receipts, hundreds of dollars for facials, massages, stuff she called self-care. She told me not to tell you, said you'd ruin everything." My stomach churned, not just from the deception but from seeing Delaney's fear. I asked, "Why didn't you tell me sooner?" Her hands twisted in her lap. She said if I talked, she'd ground me forever, take my phone, make my life hell. She thinks she deserves your money because you're successful. The word dripped with my mother's venom. The same tone she'd used at Christmas dinner. I pressed my lips together, fighting the urge to scream. "Delaney, you don't have to live like this," I said. She shook her head, tears welling. "I'm scared. Aaron, they need your money, but they hate you for it." Her words hit like a punch, confirming what I'd suspected. Their resentment wasn't just greed, it was personal. My phone buzzed again. Connor Vaughn, my boyfriend, calling from his apartment. I answered, my voice tight. I saw the email. "Connor, she's buying a car with my money." His tone was steady, angry. "Aaron, that's theft. You need to report this to the police. They can't keep using you like this." He paused, then added, "My dad did the same, milked me for rent, then called me selfish when I stopped. You don't owe them anything." His words grounded me, cutting through the fog of guilt. Connor wasn't just support, he'd lived this betrayal. Knew the weight of family turning on you. "What do I do next?" I asked. "Lock down your accounts, get your stuff, and don't look back," he said. "I'll help you." I hung up, my mind racing but clearer. Delaney watched me, her eyes pleading for a way out. But I knew I couldn't save her yet, not while she was under their roof. "Stay safe," I told her, squeezing her hand. "I'll figure this out." She nodded, but her shoulders slumped, trapped in their control. I walked back to my car, the Arizona sun hot on my neck, my mother's spa receipts, her entitled lies, and my father's silent complicity fueled a fire in me. I wasn't just angry, I was done being their bank. Connor's advice echoed. Report it, protect myself, leave. I opened my phone, pulling up the local police non-emergency number. My finger hovered over the call button. A plan forming, not impulsive, but resolute. I'd secure my finances, reclaim my belongings, and walk away from their manipulation for good. By noon, I pulled into the driveway of my friend Evan Carter's apartment in Tucson, my car packed with what little I'd grabbed from home. Evan, my rock since college, didn't hesitate when I called. "Crash here as long as you need," he said, tossing me a spare key. His place was small, a one-bedroom with a pull-out couch, but it felt safer than the house I'd funded for years. I set my laptop on his kitchen counter, checking my email for confirmation that the cancellations I'd started, electricity, rent, water, were finalized. Notifications popped up, services terminated, effective immediately. My name was off every account that had kept my family's lights on, their roof secure, their fridge full, for the first time in months. My shoulders felt lighter, like I'd shed a weight I hadn't noticed I was carrying. I called my aunt, Barbara Miles, hoping for clarity. She answered on the second ring, her voice sharp. "Aaron, how could you abandon your family like this?" My jaw tightened. Abandon? I'd paid their bills while my mother schemed to buy a car with my money. They needed me. "Barbara," I said, keeping my tone even. "I paid for everything, electricity, rent, groceries, and they called me a pig." She scoffed. "Your mother says you're selfish, hoarding your fancy job money. They're struggling because you cut them off." Her words echoed my mother's delusion, as if my sacrifices were a debt I owed. I hung up, my hands steady but my pulse racing. Barbara wasn't an ally, she was another voice in their chorus of lies. Evan slid a coffee mug toward me, his eyes kind but firm. "You did the right thing," he said. "They can't leech off you forever." I nodded, sipping the bitter brew, my mind replaying Connor's advice to report the theft. The cancellations were my first step, a clean break from their financial grip. I logged into my bank account, double-checking my remaining $700 safe, for now. My mother's betrayal wasn't just words, it was a calculated plan to drain me. I opened my cloud drive, reviewing the screenshots of her dealership email and notepad, evidence, solid and undeniable, that I wasn't the villain here. The Tucson sun blazed outside Evan's window, casting long shadows across his cluttered living room. His dog, a scruffy mutt named Rusty, flopped at my feet, oblivious to the storm in my head. I felt a spark of power, not from anger, but from control. Cutting their services wasn't revenge, it was survival. My mother's next move, I knew, would be desperate. She'd try to sell my things, like my laptop or camera, to claw back what she thought she deserved. I wasn't going to let that happen. I texted Connor, confirming our plan to involve the police. His reply was instant. "I've got your back." Evan, overhearing, grinned. "You're tougher than they think." "Aaron," I smiled, the first real one in days. They'd underestimated me, but I was ready to protect what was mine. 2 days later, I sat at Evan's kitchen counter, my phone buzzing with notifications. A sickening feeling hit when I opened an eBay alert. My laptop and camera, the ones I used for my social media work, were listed for sale. The seller's name Deborah Walsh, my mother. She'd taken my gear from the house, posting it online for quick cash, as if my life's tools were hers to pawn. I gripped my phone, my knuckles white, and called the Tucson police non-emergency line. "My mother's selling my property without consent," I said, voice steady despite the anger bubbling inside. The dispatcher, calm and professional, promised an officer would meet me at the house that afternoon. I sent Connor a text, updating him. His reply was swift, "Stay strong. They can't get away with this." By 3 o'clock, I pulled up to the ranch-style house I'd once called home. Officer Natalie Reed beside me in her patrol car. The Arizona heat shimmered off the pavement, but a chill ran through me as I spotted my car in the driveway. My father, Stephen, leaning against it, keys in hand. "You owe us." "Aaron," he barked as I stepped out. "This car's ours since you bailed on the family." His eyes were hard, his voice thick with the same entitlement my mother wielded. I clutched my folder of receipts, proof I'd paid for the car outright. "That's mine," I said, pointing to the vehicle. "You don't get to decide." Officer Reed stepped forward, her badge glinting. "Sir, we have a report of stolen property." "Step away from the vehicle." Stephen's face reddened, but he didn't budge. "She's our daughter, she owes us for raising her," he snapped. My mother appeared at the door, her expression smug until she saw the officer. "You're making a mistake." "Aaron," she hissed, clutching her phone, likely the one listing my belongings. Officer Reed raised a hand, her tone firm. "Ma'am, we've confirmed the laptop and camera belong to Aaron Walsh. Selling them without permission is theft." My mother's jaw dropped, her defiance crumbling. Stephen tossed the car keys onto the ground, muttering under his breath. But Officer Reed wasn't done. She radioed for backup, citing his refusal to comply. Another patrol car arrived, and Stephen was cuffed, his protests fading as he was led away. Mrs. Dorothy Ellis, the neighbor across the street, watched from her porch, her eyes wide as she clutched her phone, probably texting the neighborhood group chat. The tension at the house was palpable, the air thick with my parents' desperation. I handed Officer Reed my receipts, each one stamped with my name: laptop, camera, car. She nodded, jotting notes. "We'll ensure these listings are taken down," she said. "You'll get your property back." A wave of relief hit me, not just for the items but for the justice of it. My parents had tried to strip me of everything: my money, my belongings, my dignity, but they'd failed. Standing there, watching my mother's smugness fade, I felt a quiet strength. They'd counted on my silence, my compliance. Instead, I'd called their bluff, and the law was on my side. The next afternoon, I stood outside the ranch-style house in Tucson, my heart pounding but my resolve firm. Connor Vaughn gripped my hand, his presence steady, while Officer Marcus Lane, a tall man with a calm demeanor, checked his notepad. "We're here to retrieve your belongings, Ms. Walsh," he said, nodding toward the front door. I clutched my folder of receipts, proof that my laptop, camera, and clothes were mine, not family property. We knocked, and my mother, Deborah, answered, her face twisting into a scowl. "You're not taking anything," she snapped, blocking the doorway. "This is our house, our stuff." My father, Stephen, loomed behind her, arms crossed. "You don't get to walk in here and rob us," he said, his voice low and accusing. I took a breath, holding up the receipts. "These are mine," I said, pointing to the laptop and camera listed on eBay. "Now removed thanks to Officer Reed's work. I paid for them. And I have proof." Officer Lane stepped forward, his badge catching the light. "Ma'am, sir, we've verified Ms. Walsh's ownership. Step aside or face charges for obstructing." My mother's eyes narrowed, but she moved, muttering about my disloyalty. Stephen shook his head, as if I'd betrayed some unspoken pact. Their delusion that I owed them my possessions made my skin crawl, but I stayed focused, pointing out my items: a laptop on the coffee table, a camera bag in the corner, clothes stuffed in a hallway closet, as Connor helped me pack. My phone buzzed. A text from Delaney Walsh, my sister, popped up. "Mom's furious. She says I'm next if I don't stop you. I'm scared. Aaron." My chest tightened. Delaney, only 17, was trapped in their anger, but I couldn't rescue her, not yet. Not while she lived under their roof. "Stay quiet and safe," I texted back, my fingers heavy with guilt. I wanted to help, but I had to protect myself first. My mother overheard, snatching her own phone. "You're turning your sister against us," she shouted, her voice shrill. I ignored her, zipping up a duffel bag with my clothes. Officer Lane kept watch, ensuring they didn't interfere as Connor carried boxes to my car. The house felt smaller, suffocating, its walls heavy with years of manipulation. I grabbed my last item, a leather jacket I'd bought with my first paycheck, and paused. This wasn't just about stuff. It was about reclaiming my life. My parents stood in the living room, their glares burning, but I felt untouchable. "You'll regret this," my mother said, her voice a mix of threat and desperation. I didn't respond, just nodded to Connor, who squeezed my shoulder. Officer Lane handed me a form to sign, confirming the retrieval. "You're all set, Ms. Walsh," he said. I stepped outside, the Tucson air warm against my face, my car packed with everything I owned, driving away. I felt a rush of freedom, like chains snapping. But Delaney's text lingered, a knot of worry for the sister I couldn't yet save. 3 days later, I sat on Evan's couch, my laptop open to job listings, when my phone lit up with my mother's name, Deborah Walsh. I hesitated, then answered, bracing myself. "Aaron, you need to come back," she demanded, her voice thick with delusion, as if nothing had happened. "You're ungrateful, leaving us to suffer after everything we've done for you." Her words were a twisted echo of the entitlement I'd seen at the house, the same lie that justified stealing my money and belongings. I gripped the phone, my pulse steady but firm. "I'm not coming back," I said, my tone final. "You made your choices." She sputtered, launching into a rant about family loyalty, but I hung up, my finger hovering over the block button. With a single tap, I silenced her number, then my father's, Stephen, and my Aunt Barbara's for good measure. Their voices had no place in my life anymore. I leaned back, the quiet of Evan's apartment wrapping around me. A neighbor's message, forwarded by Connor, confirmed the fallout. The house had gone dark. No electricity or water since my cancellations took effect. My mother, desperate, had posted on a local Tucson Facebook group, whining about her ungrateful daughter and begging for donations. The comments were brutal. Neighbors like Dorothy Ellis called her out, mentioning the police visit and my stolen belongings. Their delusion was unraveling, exposed for all to see. I felt no pity, only a sharp clarity that their consequences were their own making. They'd counted on my compliance, but I'd cut the strings they used to pull me. Connor dropped by that evening, his smile warm as he handed me a takeout coffee. "You're free now," he said, sitting beside me. What's next? I'd been applying for freelance social media gigs. My savings $700, enough to keep me afloat until a paycheck came. We talked about renting a small place together, somewhere new, untainted by my family's shadow. I opened a job application, my fingers moving with purpose across the keyboard. Each click felt like a step forward, building a life on my terms. Connor's hand rested on mine, a quiet promise of support. We weren't just surviving, we were planning, dreaming, creating something real. Yet, as the sun dipped below Tucson's horizon, a shadow lingered in my mind. Delaney's last text, her fear of our mother's anger, haunted me. She was still in that house, caught in their control, too young to break free. I checked my phone, half expecting another message, but it stayed silent. I wanted to reach out, to tell her she could escape too, but I knew she wasn't ready, not while she feared their wrath. My freedom was hard-won, a fragile victory tempered by worry for my sister. Still, I closed my laptop, the job application submitted, and looked at Connor. "I'm okay," I said. More to myself than to him. I'd escaped their grip, and that was enough for now. A week later, I received a court notice in my email, sent to Evan's address. My mother, Deborah Walsh, had filed a small claims lawsuit, accusing me of stealing family property, my laptop and camera, the same items she'd tried to sell on eBay. Her claim was flimsy, built on the delusion that my belongings were hers because I'd lived under her roof. I printed the notice, my hands steady as I added it to my folder of receipts, which proved my ownership beyond doubt. Connor sat beside me at Evan's kitchen table, reading the document. "She's desperate," he said, shaking his head. "This won't hold up." I nodded, my resolve unshaken. I'd face her in court if needed, armed with evidence and the truth. That night, a frantic knock jolted me from my laptop. I opened Evan's door to find Delaney Walsh, my sister, standing there, her backpack slung over one shoulder, her face pale. "I ran away," she whispered, glancing behind her as if expecting pursuit. "Mom's lost it. She's screaming about the lawsuit, blaming me for not stopping you." Her voice cracked, and I pulled her inside, locking the door. Delaney collapsed onto the couch, her hands trembling. "I can't stay there anymore," she said. She threatened to take my phone, my clothes, everything. I hugged her, feeling her thin frame shake. For the first time, I saw my sister not as a scared teen but as someone ready to break free, just as I had. I called a local social services hotline the next morning, explaining Delaney's situation. 17, fleeing a toxic home, needing support. The caseworker, kind but direct, promised to connect us with resources for temporary housing and counseling. I turned to Delaney, who was sipping coffee Evan had made. "You can stay here until we sort this out," I said. She nodded, her eyes softer, a flicker of trust returning. Connor pitched in, researching legal aid for minors in Arizona. "We'll make sure she's safe," he said, his voice firm. I felt a surge of gratitude for him and Evan, who'd turned his small apartment into a haven for us both. Delaney's escape wasn't just a rebellion, it was a chance to rebuild, together. Tucson's night sky stretched wide outside Evan's window, stars sharp against the desert darkness. I stood on his balcony, Delaney beside me, the cool air a quiet contrast to the chaos we'd left. I thought of the lawsuit, my mother's last attempt to control me, and felt no fear, only certainty that I'd win. More than that, I saw a future where Delaney and I could heal, free from our parents' grip. "We're going to be okay," I told her, my voice steady. She leaned against me, silent but present. The weight of her trust, and the life we'd build, filled me with hope, a new beginning, carved from the ashes of what we'd escaped.